Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to make realistic floors, actually how to increase realism on your floors, especially for floor generator objects. This trick is only for floor generator objects. So first we need to see some references. How does a floor look like? Of course there are different types of wooden floors. I'm going to show you the most common type, especially if you're visualizing a brand new apartment. There's a huge chance that laminate floors were used. What is laminate floor? Lamination is the process of manufacturing a material with multiple layers, and in this case for floors, basically a cheaper layer of wood like MDF, on top of that either a synthetic or a natural, let's say, layer again. So this creates certain details that we need to evaluate while building our floors. What we need to check in this type of floors? I have a few examples actually. It's pretty easy to see what's going on. These are all laminate floors. And there is something that you need to pay attention, that we don't have it by default, at least inside 3ds Max or floor generator, and some certain materials actually. The ones we create with multi-texture or Corona multi-map, we don't have this detail by default, so we need to do it. And what I'm talking about, you can actually see that there's this cheap wood plate. It is MDF usually. Then on top of that, there's a wood sheet. These two materials, sometimes more, assembled together to resemble wood, but actually only the thinnest part of this floor plank is wood and the rest is MDF. As you can see here, again, thin wood plank and MDF below that. Here you can see thin wood plank and MDF. And how do we know that actually? Just because we can see the MDF by looking at the beveled parts of these planks. As you can see, this is not the same texture or the same material as these indents or gaps. As you can see here, it's more prominent. Here we have a different type of wood, and inside the gaps we have a totally different kind of wood. But let's see how it looks like in our viewport or in the render here. Let's zoom in all the way. And as you can see, because of the default UV mapping of floor generator objects, whatever we put on top, it doesn't matter. You put it on top, it will follow the gaps like this. It will stretch the gaps. The only thing you can avoid that to embed or draw the gaps on the texture itself. You can do that, but it creates a little problem. If you try to change the size of these gaps, for example, in this case, it's 0.2 centimeters, it's 2 millimeters. If you try to change it inside 3ds Max, that means you need to change it on a texture too. And it's a big problem because it will take so much time and it will multiply by the amount of planks you created for this particular texture. And let's see how it looks like in the render. As you can see, we can see these details. All the wood texture is stretched towards the gaps. But if we think about the manufacturing process, we don't have that. These wooden sheets are just on the topmost part of the wood plank. It's the top layer, it doesn't follow or it doesn't go into gaps. If you can check the details here, it's the same. We have this wooden sheet and we have these cuts going in. And unlike here, we shouldn't see the wood texture following. Let's zoom in all the way to see what I'm talking about. Here we go in. As you can see, we have these sharp gaps, and unfortunately the texture is stretching inside the gaps, and we don't want that. We don't have that kind of detail in real life, because it's kind of impossible to manufacture it that way if you're thinking about the lamination process. So how we can fix it? What I'm going to show you is only for Corona materials But if you're using V-Ray or any other render engine, and if you have a similar ambient occlusion node, you can follow the same procedure just by trying yourself. And let's see how the actual material looks like. Eyedropper tool to get the material. And as you can see, this is the material we made previously for another tip video. It's just a single bitmap, and it's just using UV randomizer and some additional multi-map randomization for gamma and hue, and that's basically it. To demonstrate that, I'm going to disable this bitmap for the diffuse color, and I'm going to put a Corona ambient occlusion node. To visualize it better, I'm going to give high contrast colors so we would see where it blends and where it doesn't. For this case, red and green should be fine. Let's go like this. I think it should work. As you can see, we already started to see something similar to what we are trying to achieve. On the top part, we are seeing this green sheet, and in the gaps we start to see some red details. But how can we further make it realistic? The thing you need to pay attention here, as you can see, we have this box here, and it's also creating this ambient occlusion effect on our floor object. This is how it usually works, but we don't need this, and we certainly don't want this. So we need to check this. Only the same object occludes. If you do that, you will see that only the planks will affect each other. And then, what you need to pay attention is, let's select our floor generator object here. This floor generator object has the bevel size of 2 centimeters. Usually, for the distance, double the amount works fine, but you can try it yourself and you can try to improve it or find better values if you can. You are free to do so, but I always use double the amount. If this is 0.2 centimeters, I will put 0.4 centimeters. Then, color spread. This affects how strong is the transition between occluded color and unoccluded color. If it's 0, it will be a smooth transition. If it's 1, it will be a rough transition. And as you can see, let's create a region here. If I put 0, effect is less visible because the transition is super smooth. But if I put it all the way up to 1, you can see that it's fully effective. And that's the only thing you need to change. And that's it. But how does this apply to our floor texture? Actually, that's also pretty straightforward. Let's put our reference here for now. And let's sample some colors from here. Maybe that would be useful. Here is too dark. Let's go here to see if it will change something for us. I'm gonna disable the region. I'm gonna use the eyedropper. I'm gonna get this color for the occluded color, and I'm gonna scale this. For the unoccluded color, I'm just gonna go bigger, average. Let's sample somewhere here. I hope it's different. Yes. As you can see, this already looks like a floor to me, except it has no textures. And to finalize our material, I'm just going to plug this into unoccluded color because the gaps are the occluded part, and I need this texture, this wood texture we created for the floor. I need it to be in the unoccluded color part, and I'm gonna plug it in. And then, according to my texture color or texture average, let's say, I'm going to create a value here. Can be darker, can be lighter. You can decide it by eye. It's not that important, I think. You can decide what is realistic to you and what is not. For example, in this case, this looks a bit unnatural to me because the wood texture is a bit darker and this creates some kind of ceramic tile effect for me. And I want it to be darker, so I will just put some darker value. Maybe too dark, maybe some more color, and that's it. And I'm actually happy with the result, and as you can see, the details, I think it looks pretty close to what we are trying to achieve here. Maybe a bit more color, I don't know. Something like this, maybe. I think it looks way more realistic this way. And let's do some regions to decide if it's realistic enough or not realistic enough. I'm gonna hide this cube for now. I'm gonna render this half. We don't need to do much, we don't need to go crazy with this render, but let's see how it's gonna end up. And now I'm going to render the other half, maybe like this, without the ambient occlusion node. I think the right half looks way more realistic compared to the left one. And if you think about all the real manufacturing process of this kind of material in real life, you would see that right half of this image makes more sense. And it's not for every single wood floor. If you have laminate flooring and if you know what you're trying to achieve, this might be really useful and it's just gonna take a second to do it. And the best thing is, it's procedural. You can just decide the amount and you can just apply it for every dimension of the floor object and every kind of texture. And if it's too strong, you can reduce the effect, you can change it without ever needing to go on Photoshop to draw gaps on your textures individually. Anyways, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it and you learned something from it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. If you want to see more time-saving tips like this, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any questions or requests, please leave a comment and I will do my best to reply. Thank you for watching and have fun modeling.